Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at a brand new Jack Russell's Great White album called Once Bitten Acoustic Bytes that just came out on Friday, May 1st. This album is an all acoustic album, but it is recorded in the studio, which makes it different than just a live recording that's done acoustically. And it's the entire album of Once Bitten, originally released by the full original lineup of Great White with all those hits on it and everything. So they've done a full recording of it here. Now, to give you a little bit of background and history on them, and Great White's history reads like a soap opera or a Lifetime, made-for-TV movie kind of a thing. It's really crazy all that has gone on in it. Before we get into that, we're going to listen to Jack Russell's Great White, his other solo album from 2017, He Saw It Coming. We're going to use that as background music today. All right, so Great White, the original lineup of Great White formed in 1977 with Jack Russell and Mark Kendall. And they were originally called Highway, and then they changed it to Livewire and eventually Wires. Now here's the weird thing. In 1979, Jack Russell was arrested for shooting a live-in maid in a botched robbery attempt and got 8 years in prison. So he's sent away. The band has to start over. They go their separate ways. Mark Kendall starts a new band at that point, and they're called Dante Fox. And they did record some demos, and interesting, they were just released in 2019 here. So if you're interested in what the 1979 version of Great White with Jack Russell and Mark Kendall, he was back in the band by this point, let out of prison. There is 17 tracks on here, and all of them on here are not songs that have appeared on the other albums and things, so it's really cool. It sounds like the Great White stuff. It's a little raw because they are demos, and I'm sure they came from cassettes, but it's good stuff nonetheless if you're really interested. Okay, and so by this point here, their manager, Alan Nevin, who had also worked with Motley Crue on their first album, suggested the name change to Great White. And they released their debut in 1984 and follow it up by the album Shot in the Dark in 1986. But it wasn't until the third album, the classic Once Bitten, that came out in 1987. And this album went platinum, that they finally hit the big time. This one here, Lady Red Light, Rock Me, Save Your Love, just really classic, great stuff on this album. And following that album was their next one, which was even bigger, called Twice Shy, and it's a play on the Ian Hunter song, Once Bitten, Twice Shy, that does appear on here. That was the biggest song released, but first album, Once Bitten, Twice Shy. And so by that point, they put that song on as a cover. The album went double platinum. If you're curious who the girl on the front of this is, it's Tracy Martinson. She was a model at the time, no longer a model. But the girl that's in the video is not her. It's actually Bobby Brown, who was also in the Warrant Cherry Pie video. And I know a lot of guys lusted over that girl and being in the music video, the video vixen and all that sort of thing. So if you didn't know who that was, that's who it is, Bobby Brown. Now, following this point, Great White continues on. They put out Psycho City and a few others, and unfortunately with the decline of rock music in the 80s sound, eventually they decided to call it quits in 2001. It was amicable. They just decided it wasn't worth it anymore to be doing it. But in 2002, Jack Russell contracted the name from Mark Kendall. He decided to go out and he wanted to tour, and so it became Jack Russell's Great White. And they went out and toured for 4 years at that point, from 2002 to 2006. But unfortunately, the tragic station nightclub fire happened in 2003. While Jack Russell's Great White, it was actually his version of the band performing, even though they get referred to simply as Great White in a lot of the press. His version of the band was performing. Pyro from it sparked the acoustic sound insulation of the nightclub. The place went up. 100 people were killed, including Great White guitarist Ty Longley. 115 people were badly burned or maimed from it, or disfigured. In 2008, Jack Russell and his touring company called Jack Russell Touring Incorporated settled the case, paying the survivors and families $1 million. It was the maximum allowed under the insurance policy of the touring band. In 2006, though, the original Great White reformed. This is bringing Mark Kendall back into the fold, and Michael Lardy and Audie Desborough on drums. And then in 2006, while Jack Russell was recuperating from surgery, they ultimately decided to replace him. There's some mixed stories whether or not he was fully up to it or not up to it, or the band just wanted to move on, or what the real story is. But ultimately, Great White with Mark Kendall replaced Jack Russell, and they had a few different lineups, including Warrant's Janie Lane sung for them for a little while. Ultimately, though, they chose Terry Lewis from XYZ and continued on with him, but Jack Russell sued against that, and in 2013, all parties agreed that Jack Russell could continue under the name Jack Russell's Great White, while the rest of the members could continue as simply Great White. And so in 2017, he released his first album as Jack Russell's Great White. He Saw It Coming, which is a fantastic album in my opinion, and we're listening to it right now. Which brings us up to present and Once Bitten Acoustic Bytes. And so this album here, as I said, is a re-recording of the original Once Bitten album, celebrating it. This album was originally intended to come out in 2017 for the 30th anniversary of this album here. So I'm not sure why it kept getting pushed back or it didn't get recorded or what the issues was, but that's really what this was. It was recorded as an anniversary to it. It adds one bonus track, the Led Zeppelin classic, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. It was made famous or popular by Great White during their Unplugged performance on MTV and got a lot of radio play at that time, even though it didn't appear on any albums. I think this album translates really well acoustically. In my opinion, it just adds new life to the album. Songs like Fast Road, Living on the Edge, I think sound better now done acoustically than the original versions. I mean, I love the album, don't get me wrong, but I just really like these new versions of it here. I've been playing it non-stop. And even though the album closes with the cover of the Led Zeppelin classic Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, it actually feels like it was intended to be there the whole time. And Jack's vocals are just really up to par on this, in my opinion. He just sounds, really terrific on this. Now, my only complaint, though, is that I feel like the vocals are a little bit more in the background than how I would like them to be up front, and I'm not really sure why. The instrumentation is more in the front and the vocals are in the background of it. Outside of that, my other complaint is simply the packaging on this, and I'll show you in just a moment when I open this up, but they don't even list the band members' names on it, and I think that's really important to distinguish who you are, especially when you have one version as Great White and then you have Jack Russell's Great White. Now, the other reason I think that's important is there's actually two original members of Great White here. We've got Jack Russell on vocals, but we've also got Tony Montana, who was the bass player for Great White, but he switched to guitar now under Jack Russell's Great White. So we have both of them in here. So there's the front cover of this, and you can see the spine, and then the back of it there with the track listing and everything. And this is the inside. A really cool picture of the Great White jaws there on the front, and when we pop that out, that's what it looks like. And the booklet is a real small, sort of triple fold thing that just does this, and it's got all the thank yous, so you can see who's saying it and figure out who the band is, but they don't actually list the band members in this at all. But I know that's probably in a way to try and not draw attention to the fact that it's not necessarily the original guys, albeit in my opinion with Jack Russell singing, it is original. He goes all the way back to 77. For me, his voice always made the sound of Great White, and I think that's what we're getting here. And so, despite the album being an acoustic album, I think it's still got a lot of fire and a lot of grit. All the classics sound really great on here, but to me it's the deep album cuts that really stand out. And the added bonus of getting the Led Zeppelin cover, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, that I enjoyed so much from the MTV Unplugged back, I think it was in like 1991. Having a studio cut of that now, I think is really great. All right, I hope you enjoyed this review and unboxing, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care, everyone.